At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
This is Talkin' Rock. Talkin' Rock. Your backstage pass to some of your favorite rock artists. Here's your host, Meltdown.
Two rock legends on one mediocre podcast. It's Talkin' Rock with Meltdown. Rick Emmett from Triumph coming up here in a bit. He's got a new book out. Comes out on April 7th. It's a book of poetry called Leaning Into It. We'll talk about that here in just a bit and tell you how I screwed up that interview with technical issues. That comes up here in a few minutes. But first, it's Maynard from the band Puscifer. They've got a new record out and tour as well. It's called Normal Isn't. And I talked to Maynard about that, about creating this record, about working with some of the guys in the band. Even shows at the Sphere. And does Maynard get nervous on stage? Does he have stage fright? Because he has been quoted as saying he's kind of a self-doubter. So let's start off this episode of Talkin' Rock with the one and only Maynard James Keenan.
Hey.
So you're coming through town here on April 18th. I see that you're going to be celebrating a big birthday coming up the day before. What do you do for your birthday? Is there anything special or anything planned?
I'm going to try to hook up with some people I haven't seen in almost 50 years in the Ravenna, Akron area.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, yeah, because you have a day off that day. I guess that's just lucky, eh?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't really been back to the place I went to elementary and junior high in decades. So it's going to be an interesting little stop.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, you're coming through town with Puss for the Normal Isn't tour. Like I said, April 18th at the Fox Theater. Man, what a diverse record. For somebody that's never listened to this record, how do you describe it to someone?
Well, you don't really. You have to just listen. There's a lot of stuff out there nowadays. We just did an interview with Rick Beato, and one of the things we were talking about off camera was just how the last couple decades, everything's just kind of been homogenized, and the way people are writing, they're like using algorithms to appeal to, I don't know, shoppers, I guess. But it's rare that you have people that are still trying to reinvent and push the boundaries at the risk of, not bringing fans with you. But you can't really think about that. You have to push the boundaries, and Matt Mitchell is all about that. Whatever he's laying down for pieces, he's honoring the song, he's honoring the instrument, the synth, and we're just trying to break rules.
Now, I remember back when I was watching the Metallica, Some Kind of Monster documentary, I remember somebody just brought this up to me the other day, where Lars said, "This is too stock." Do you ever get in that situation where you're like recording something and you think maybe this is too stock?
Yeah, I mean that's what you, yeah. If that's how you think and that's how you write, then it's not stock for you. It's just kind of that's what you do. I get it. It's just not what we do. None of my projects are that. It's just the kind of people that we gravitate towards, that just don't think rhythmically in the box. We always think outside the box. So I think if you're going to listen to this record, that's what you're signing up for, a whole piece. You're not just signing up for a commercial. You're signing up for an entire film.
Yeah, it's definitely got a lot of flavors and a lot of soundtracky, like soundscape type things as well from this record. And I did see that interview you were talking about with Rick, and you and Matt and Karina, you guys work well together. And I guess with the other projects as well, you kind of try to do what fits best for the song. Do people ever give you ideas? You're like, I don't know if that fits best. How do you work that?
I just have to honor the song. So you're going. It's conversation going back and forth. And you just have to, we're reacting to each other's reactions. So you just put the pieces one behind the other, one in front of the other, back and forth, to serve the song. I know that sounds, I'm not being dismissive, I swear. It's it's just a process, and until you're actually in the middle of the process, it might not make sense.
I was going to say, is it one of those things where it's kind of hard to verbalize, but you know it when it's there?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you're there's a little tingle when you get it right. Yeah, it's magic. It's we're not magicians. We're just witnessing magic.
Mm-hmm. And I've talked to some bands before and stuff, but it's like you can't be afraid, I guess, to hurt feelings or whatever, right?
Yeah, you have to get over that shit, and realize it's not about you. It's about the song, or it's about the whole collection of songs. And then how do you honor that, and how do you translate that live? You know?
Yeah. So how does Puscifer fulfill your creative and artistic ambitions as opposed to some of the other projects, or is it all kind of like the same?
It's just different conversations, and the ones that are in front of you, right? Of course, harvest comes when harvest comes, so I'm off. I'm off the road when the grapes are ready, because they're ready when they're ready, right? And then but I can still be writing during that period of time. But as far as actually being out there performing the songs, it has to happen after the grapes have had their way.
Yeah. Yes. Speaking of that, I see you're on the road right now, right? A hotel room, which is where you record some of your stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I got the mic set up, and a lot of it. That's the beauty of working in Logic, is I can do it on my laptop and then kind of fire off files to whoever. But the real work ends up happening once those napkin sketches are more realized. Yeah, I go back to the Puscifer studio, or we do my studio in Arizona.
Yeah, and you were talking with Rick as well about one of the songs, I think 7-1, where you're actually recording it and you were trying not to, disturb the neighbors in your hotel or whatever.
Yeah.
Does that happen quite a bit?
Yeah, there's quite a few napkin sketches that end up being like that, where they're a lower register, and I have to keep that in mind, because you can't necessarily sing that live if it's too low.
What do you mean you can't sing it live? The fans just
want if I'm singing way down here,
okay,
that won't translate on the stage. So you have to keep that in mind. Like there is a range that's perceptible with live music. So even though I'm having fun, like singing some super lower bass rather than baritone vocal, that's not going to translate live. That's going to be a recorded vocal.
So do you go into the writing sessions and write a lot of these songs with the stage in mind?
Not necessarily. You just have to keep it in mind, so that you're not painting yourself into a corner, right? And if I'm doing harmonies, I have to remember that I would have to remember if that's in Karina's range, right? So sometimes I don't write harmony. I just let her write it. That way, I know she can do it because it's in her range.
Now you're traveling a lot. You're doing all sorts of stuff with different projects and whatnot. So when you're recording, like you said, when you're traveling, you're going hotel to hotel to studios and whatnot. How often do you listen to the stuff like in earbuds or like in your car or something? Not the finished product, but maybe those demos and ideas.
Oh, all the time. That's kind of if it's something that Matt's handing to me and I'm trying to find my way through it, I'll listen to it, 100 times trying not to react to it at all. Just listen to what's happening, and then that way my reaction it's seasoned, if that makes sense. I know where the pieces are going, and then when I'm actually putting a vocal down, I've exhausted all the, I guess what you were saying before about it being too stock. You have to keep in mind what reactions I've had in the past and not have those. And when you've written, 200 songs, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
So you have to listen to that piece over and over and over again to find what that piece wants me to do, not what I would do right off the cuff.
Is it kind of like putting an audio puzzle together, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to see it almost in 3 dimensions.
Mm. And are you working on this whole record, this Puscifer record, which by the way, Normal Isn't came out in February? Are you working on different songs all the time, or is it just kind of you just focus on one song?
It depends on who I'm working with. If I have a couple songs in mind, Matt can he'll only focus on a song for the day, right? But he's working on several, and I'm working on several, and we're going back and forth. If it's another, like let's say if it's Billy and I want to get the thing finished, I have to focus on the one.
Mm. Yeah. And man, I'll tell you what, just watching that interview you did with Rick, it's like you put a lot of trust and a lot of faith in Matt and Karina, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I trust him with all those decisions, and we have to just listening is a hard skill for egomaniacs to learn. So when you get a couple people that listen as well as you do, you should trust that.
Mm-hmm. I know that I was also listening to another interview you did recently where you said that you have a lot of self-doubt. Do you ever get stage fright? What is it like when you go on stage?
That's terrifying.
Really?
Every night is terrifying. You don't know how it's going to go. Yeah, it's a challenge, but that's what live music is, right? That's why you're going to see it. We're literally alive right now. We might not be alive tomorrow. So that's why I would encourage you to come to the show, because you don't know what you're getting tomorrow. Live music, we're alive today. Come see us today while we're alive.
Would you think that is live music and the live environment for you kind of like a little bit of an adrenaline rush?
I guess, yeah. Equal parts fear and excitement. And you're literally having to pay attention to every second so that you don't fuck it up.
Was there a part of you that thought that maybe you'd get over this early on in your career?
I never really thought about it. I just I don't want to call it my job because that sounds cold. Like I don't want to be here, but I do want to be here. Job is not the word. Responsibility. If I'm going to take on this task and I'm going to write these things, then it's kind of part of the package that you're going to in some way share them with someone. And I would think that the goal is to do them accurately.
Yeah, I was going to ask you like what your main objective is when you get on stage, but I guess that's it. Part visual, obviously audio and entertaining.
Yeah, you have to remember that you are an entertainer. But the reason they're there is because you did a thing, and you have to honor the thing by not screwing it up. Mm-hmm. But you are, but it is live music, and that's kind of why you go, is you're almost there for as much of the chaos and mistakes as you are for the accurate presentation of the art.
Yeah, I guess that's got to be part of it too. Being an artistic and creative guy like yourself, have you seen a show at the Sphere yet?
No. I would imagine that would give me vertigo. I can't even handle Universal Studios. Like the Minions ride makes me want to vomit. So I don't know. I might not be able to handle the Sphere.
I know my kids always wanted to go on roller coasters, and my dad used to force me on them, and I never did until they were old enough to go on the roller coasters. Then I had to go on with them, so I guess I had to push that aside. So I'm looking forward to going to see a show at the Sphere. It's got to be unbelievable, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, I'm more concerned about the Fox Theater at the moment.
Yeah, the Fox Theater. Yeah, so that comes up, like I said, the Normal Isn't tour on April 18th. You've played there before. Joe Bonamassa called it one of the nicest theaters he's ever played in.
I love that place, man, and I love Detroit. So even though we kind of considered Detroit Northern Ohio, no offense.
So did you come here as a kid and watch shows?
Our Western Michigan roots. We kind of talk a lot of smack about Detroit, but no, I spent more time going to shows in college in Grand Rapids. I would go to more things like the punk rock clubs in Muskegon and down to Chicago, and then St. Andrews Hall in Detroit, like all the older punk rock days.
Wow, and then you had a chance to play at all those venues as well, so that's really cool. Well, Maynard, first of all, happy early birthday, April 17th. You're going to be 61. Last year you spent the year on tour celebrating your birthday, and this year you're going to be, like I said, down in Ohio. But Normal is out, and that's April 18th at the Fox Theater. Maynard, a privilege and a pleasure to talk with you again. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you so much for the time. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Rick Emmett's new poetry book comes out on April 7th as I record this. That's tomorrow. And I had a chance to talk to him a few weeks ago about the book and much, much more. The problem was that my connection and my computer crashed 2 times while talking to Rick. Rick, being the gracious guy that he is, actually hung on the line the whole time and waited for me to come back. And that took a couple minutes each time. And I was told by the engineers that somewhere along the line, corporate was actually rebooting something along the computer chain, or I don't know what was going on. Anyways, we agreed to reschedule the interview for just last week as I record this. And I didn't realize I could do this, but I sent him a Zoom link on my other email. Like I said, I didn't realize I could do this, and I didn't really find out I could do this until about 10 or 15 minutes into what would have been our interview time. By the time I got on the line, Rick, rightfully so, wasn't there. So here's what I got with Rick from a few weeks ago. And once again, my apologies to him and his lovely publicist. Check out the book. Check out my conversation with Rick. Hey, Rick, great to see you again.
Thank you. It's nice to be seen.
Yes, no doubt. Before we get into the upcoming book, and of course you'll talk Triumph and whatnot, did you happen to see what happened a couple weeks ago in Milan, Italy? Did you happen to watch that?
Refresh my memory.
Gold medal hockey.
Oh, that. Yeah. Well, yes, of course. I'm a good Canadian, and so I was watching, and it was heartbreaking for us, and lovely for you guys. But there's a thing too about sports and stuff, and I write about this a little bit I was aiming at it when I was writing in the Leaning Into It poetry book, but the stuff I've been writing a little bit more lately has gotten into it, which is the idea of pride and humility, and how there's certain things that institutionalized pride. Oh, we have to have pride in our country, pride in our symbols, our flag, our the maple leaf in my case, and I get it. And I do like it. And, my guitar straps, I don't know if you can see this here. Like when I'm going out on tour, like I'm going to wear it. I'm going to have a certain amount of pride.
Sure.
But then at a certain point, it becomes, now it's not so good. Now, now you're making yourself look like a bit of an asshole if you rub it too much in other people's faces, And so this is a thing where the difference between Canadians and Americans, it might become fairly obvious because, like, who I really liked in hockey? I really liked Stevie Yzerman.
Yeah. He
would score a goal and he would not even raise his stick. He would just look at the other guys on his line and kind of give them a little fist pump like, yeah, all right. Okay, let's get back to business. And I go, man, that's my kind of guy. Like the kind of guys that celebrate. You know what I hate? I hate when we're watching this World Baseball Classics now.
Yeah.
And a guy hits a single and they act like they've won the World Series, and you
right.
go, there's still a lot of game to go here, buddy.
Right.
Like, why don't you just settle down and just, do your job, take pride in your job, enjoy your job. Absolutely. But how much do you need to be rubbing it in other people's faces in order for you to be going, no, this is how I'm having a good time, Yeah. So all things being said, Milan and the Kachuk brothers, like those guys, they're not really my kind of people, All
right, fair enough. I mean, of course, you're a hockey guy. I'm a hockey guy as well. And I just had to, ask. I think when I talked to Gil last, it was right before the I think it was that week of, and they hadn't played yet. But look, I was up early that morning. Actually, I played that morning. We actually skated earlier than we normally do, so we could all get back and to our homes or the bars and watch the games. But anyways, we just brought it up. So leaning into it, that comes out on April 7th. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This book kind of got its inclination, its start during COVID. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, I did a lot of the writing then. And so there's this weird thing about books. They're even worse than albums. I used to hate, the Triumph days when you'd make a record, but it would take, months before it would finally come out. And then you're touring on it, but you're going, well, I'm already writing new songs, So poetry, it's like, oh my God, I wrote these things, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and they're finally coming out and you go, won't it have lost some of its topicality and its currency and, like all of those kinds of things? I go, well, and my editor will say, no, when you write a poem, it's for all time. I'm going, yeah, okay. So, but yes, it was back then, and Trump was having his first go around. And so there's a little bit of that. And that it informs the book. And then I was saying to my editor, yeah, I don't know, this might not date itself well. And then he got back in. I was like, okay, let's put that book out. Because, I think it's got something to say about where we're at, So anyhow, yeah.
I got a chance to read through a little bit of it. I have to admit, I'm not much of a poetry guy per se. And a little bit of it was a little perplexing to me just because I don't really live in that world. But for somebody like me, it kind of explain it, and as best you can, like explain this book to someone.
Well, the easiest way in is through the title. So it's called Leaning Into It. So what is it? Like when I wrote my memoir, it was laying on the line. And you say, okay, what is it? What is it that you're laying on the line? And you go, well, it's truth. It's honesty. That's the it. So now when I'm leaning into it, sometimes we're just leaving the SH off the word because, there's an awful lot of stuff that I find very frustrating. I'll be honest with you. I make art, I make commercial art. I write songs. I write books. I hope people will buy them, but I do art because I'm trying to express things that are my frustrations about not just the world, but the people that inhabit it. Like I like people. I like to sing a song and have people go, hey, we like your song. We want to sing along. Great. I'm hoping for that. But man, there's stuff that I put into the book where it's like George Carlin goes, man, you get a whole bunch of people together. The more people that you get together, the stupider they become.
Yeah, the masses are asses.
Yeah, and he goes, there's one of his quotes that I love. He goes, I want you to imagine the average guy. Just the average guy. And then think about how stupid he is. And then imagine that half the people are stupider than he is. And you go, okay. Like, so in leaning into it, I talk about Carlin and say, he's my kind of guy, but he could never get he'd never get elected if he ran. He'll never become a politician on my behalf because, people won't vote for him because he's an atheist. Bertrand Russell, my kind of guy, my kind of mind. But most people would go, oh, he's godless. That's terrible. That's a horrible thing. And you go, oh, but this whole thing about God and countries and flags and borders and then human beings that are deciding this is my turf, this is what I believe, this is my faith, and you just go, oh, okay, yeah, you know how much bad shit has happened because of faith? Like, I don't mind you having your own beliefs, just don't try to, dump them on me. So I write poetry because I'm trying to address those kinds of things, and when you're leaning into it, you're leaning into the wind that's blowing in your face from people that they shouldn't be making so much noise. They shouldn't, they really shouldn't. They haven't really thought it through. Anyhow.
Yeah, and hence the cover of it as well. And look, you've done everything. You've sold millions of records. You've made your money. You toured the world, the whole thing. And at this stage in life, I mean, it kind of maybe even just gives you a little bit of a luxury to put something out like this. Like maybe this is something that's been brewing with you for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd want to be, looked at as somebody that's, he's a dilettante. He's doing this because he can. Like, I think the truth of it is I do it because I have to. Like, I really feel like, there's a difference between your vocation, which is your work, and your avocation, which is your calling. And I feel like my avocation is to be a writer, and a writer is going to write whether I'm selling 1 million or I'm selling nothing. I'm going to journal. I'm going to do the things that I do. And I do think that there was a large chunk of my life where I was pursuing, being on stages and riding in airplanes and, doing all that stuff. I'm playing guitar. And I love playing guitar, but I also love writing. And poetry gives me a way to be able to express myself, not on 6 strings on a fretboard, but in a way that, and not necessarily singing, although, poetry is its own kind of singing. It finds its own rhythms. It's not songs, but it is, in a way, it's you're making these things. I try to fit them onto one page. I don't want to make it so that I'm giving people too much to be able to digest. I try to organize it into sections and go, there's a reason I did this, so that it becomes a little more digestible, a little easier to consume. And I realized that, people go, Rick Emmett, oh yeah, he's the guy from Triumph, right? So he's got a poetry book. Okay, I'm not just like you. You go, I'm not much into poetry, but okay, I'm going to interview the guy. I guess I'll give it a look. Yeah. I know that there's going to be a lot of that, and but I'm also hoping that there's people that are actually really into poetry that are going to go, no, this guy's legit. In the same way that people, when Gord Downey of Tragically Hip, they would go, no, the guy's legit. Leonard Cohen is probably the greatest Canadian example of all, where an extremely legit poet who then was, he wasn't such a great singer, but he won Male Vocalist of the Year.
Yeah.
So, I think there was there's a famous thing where Cohen the record company guy was saying, Leonard, we know you're good. We just don't know if you're actually any good.
Well, I mean, look, I'm a fan, and I've followed you guys for years. So, anything you guys put out, I'm going to, talk about or dig into a little bit. And I did read a little bit of it. Like I said, poetry is just not in my wheelhouse. As a matter of fact, I was talking to my dad on the way to work today, and it was my birthday yesterday. And he always sends money in the mail, because that's how my dad does it, right? And he writes out a card on a piece of yellow paper. And I think this year it said, happy birthday, kid, you're getting old. And I said to him, I go, I'm going to interview Rick Emmett. He's put out a poetry book, and my dad's like, yeah, well, that just flowed out of me, that whole thing. So
birthday was yesterday. You share a birthday with Phil X.
Yes, I was just about to bring it up. Yeah.
So Phil, we were all wishing him happy birthday yesterday, and he turned 60. So yeah, he's getting up there now, but he doesn't act like he's 60. Phil acts like he's about 22. Yeah, just out of a frat house.
And let me ask you this. I don't know. Did you know Phil back in the day, or have you recently kind of met him? Or
I knew of him. He had reputation, obviously. And then there was a weird thing that happened and I just did an interview with this guy, Jim Norris, that used to run Canadian Musician Magazine. And Jim, after I'd left Triumph and then Phil had replaced me, he was doing some kind of a guitar seminar clinic thingy.
Check out Talkin' Rock with Meltdown on all podcast platforms and WRIF.com.
This could be really awkward, but Phil X is going to come too. And I went, that's fine. That's perfectly great. I'd never met him personally, but when I did meet him and I was shaking his hand, I pulled him in close. I go, Phil, I just want to wish you all the luck in the world, because there's nobody on the planet Earth that knows what you're stepping into more than me. So, good luck to you. And so I've always liked him and respected his talent and his ability. And it's just a great joy to get to play with him. And I should mention Todd Kearns and Brent Fitz, because those guys have been out with Slash and Alice Cooper. And like, these guys are, hardened road warriors, but they're younger than we are. And they're very gifted. And I go, this is a beautiful safety net to have.
And my computer unprofessionally crashed out again right there. So hopefully we'll get another chance to talk to Rick here coming up soon in the Southeast Michigan area. It's at the end of May at Freedom Hill as they start up their tour in Orlando coming up this week as I record this on April 10th. Triumph back together with Phil X and Todd Kearns and Brent Fitz as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing them when they come to my neck of the woods. Hey, I've got some cool interviews coming up here. 2 bass players. One guy who shares the name of his band with a comedic celebrity. I'll tell you more about that as we get closer. But I'm on vacation next week, so look for them by the end of this week.
Thank you for listening to Talkin' Rock with Meltdown. You can help this podcast grow by giving it a 5-star rating and writing a review on Apple and iTunes. Plus, feel free to subscribe and share it with your friends. Until next time, thanks for listening to Talkin' Rock.